This thing here is very weird. Intellivision, 10 videogiochi, published by Jig, which was a very prominent toy company in the early 2000s. This was published in 2003. And already just from the fact that this isn't published by Mattel, I'm very confused about what's going on. Everyone knows that Intellivision in the early 2000s was trying out a revival of sorts. There was this collection that came out, I don't remember precisely when, but in this same time frame. It was called Intellivision Lives, and it had like 100 games inside and all sorts of documentation about stuff that was happening behind the scenes, documentaries and such. I don't know who is behind this. I know it wasn't Mattel, because otherwise, again, they would have published this themselves, but it was an interesting phenomenon, and it's clear that it didn't work out the same way that Atari will pop up once in a while with their own retro stuff. For example, with the Atari 50 collection, which is, I've already said this, but it's pretty much the best video game collection of all time if you're looking at not just the games themselves, but the history behind it and all of that jazz. Either way, not important to what I'm trying to say here. Activision, 10 videogiochi. Look at the subtitle. I videogiochi che hanno fatto la storia. That means video games that have made history. This is marketing itself as a sort of retro gaming console, which means it's not meant for children, because children do not give a shit about retro gaming. There might be more of a younger audience nowadays because of stuff like the GameCube and the PS2 being so full of timeless classics. But in the year of our Lord, 2003, when the PS2 and the GameCube were the current stuff, and they were kinda revolutionizing the way people even considered video games could be, with the newer graphics and all of the cool stuff that the advancement of technology could allow before, I guess, we sorta hit a wall after the PS3 generation and everything just became more expensive for diminishing returns. But yeah, you couldn't quite advertise something like this as a retro gaming console to an audience of younger children, because they were playing Jack and Dexter and what the fuck, Luigi's Mansion, all stuff that looks a million times better than this. And I don't really have any way to see the price in this box in itself, but I am gonna... Okay, well, it says 15 euros here, but that's how much I paid it. Fuck. I know there is a lot of cheap parents out there, but if you wanted to buy your child a plug-and-play console, you could just go to one of those Chinese stores that were all over, at least Italy. I don't know if this is a thing like worldwide. A lot of these stores, usually owned by Chinese people, full of knockoffs of various brands and stuff, and they have a lot of the 10,000 games in one NES emulators, which weren't actually 10,000 games, but were like 30 games that were repeated 100 times or something. Either way, children aren't gonna care about this. If you are an adult and you have nostalgia about like Intellivision, what the fuck? It's 2003. You're just going to get yourself an Intellivision. There isn't the market bubble that we're going through nowadays, where if you want to buy a game from the PS2 era that sold millions of copies, you have to pay some fucking prick on eBay 80 euros, and maybe it doesn't even come with the instruction manual. I'm making it sound easy, I understand, but if you aren't Italian, you might not have a full grasp of how actually easy it is to find incredibly cool shit just in your backyard, literally. Flea markets, used stores, everything. Actually an embarrassment of riches. I know this isn't the case for the entire world. I know that if you live like in the northern part of Europe, Sweden, Finland, shit like that, it's a lot more difficult because everyone is a lot more isolated. But in Italy, where there is a high population density, where people really like to collect stuff and put it in fancy cases, and there is so much of it that the value doesn't tend to go up too much, you could find an Intellivision if you wanted to. I'm sorry, what's the point of this? Who is going to care about Intellivision 10 videogiochi plug and play? The answer is me, stupid. I love this. I really do. I wish there was more incredibly unprofitable and stupid stuff like this nowadays. Now everyone is too much in the know. If Intellivision or whoever owns the Intellivision brand wanted to create something like this, they would charge you like 200 euros and it would have more games, maybe some more functionalities, but it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same. I want to own the product of stupidity and incompetence and people who don't know what they're doing. And this is it. I love it. I love it so much. And I'm so happy to own it for just 15 euros. I love being alive in the country of Italy. This is gonna be completely unrelated to anything that I've been talking about, but in the same place where I got the Intellivision 10 videogiochi, I also found this, and I got super excited thinking that this was gonna be like a crossover event. Bruce Lee going to Outward and kicking the ass of Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung and all of that. Like, that sounds fucking awesome to anyone who knows anything about either of these two entities. Unfortunately, these are just separate stories. There is a Mortal Kombat story and one dedicated to Bruce Lee, I suppose. And I liked both. They're not like amazing or anything, but they do the job. And once you open up the box, this is pretty much all you get. Of course, you have the cables, the AV cables that you will have to connect directly to your television, which is something that I haven't quite seen anymore. I don't think TVs nowadays have AV cables. I don't watch TV. I just have this relatively recent 1440p monitor, but that's as far as my knowledge of this kind of stuff goes. But yes, this is the entire thing, and there is actually quite a lot to say about like how this works as a controller. It's a very unique setup, and I guess I'm gonna start off from the back, since you know I'm never gonna turn this around again for the rest of the video. There is this weird indentures that I don't know like how a child is supposed to play with this. Of course, my hands are very big, a lot bigger than what the average expected audience for something like this would be. But like a child, how would a child have to hold this? As an adult, it almost feels as if my fingers are supposed to fit in this, dance here. So, I mean, it's not terribly uncomfortable actually. Like, you can just do this, and it's not too dissimilar from a regular controller, even if it's a lot smaller. Very unique setup, definitely. Probably will feel more normal if you are a child, handling this thing. The worst part of this controller has got to be the triggers here. They feel very cheap and very flimsy, like you are clicking, but you aren't quite sure if you have pressed properly all the way. Especially if you do this like on the edges, because they kinda get stuck. And maybe that's just because this is, a really old console, plug and play, whatever you wanna call it. And maybe this is just a consequence of the passage of time, and it used to work better in its, I suppose, original state. But either way, not good triggers at all. Not a fan. Of course, you have the reset button here. There isn't a lot to say, I suppose. It works if you click it, and you won't have to click it very much, hopefully. So even if it's a bit far away from everything else, not a big deal. The face buttons are rather bizarre. I don't know why they are doing this thing with like arrows pointing up for the X and Y buttons, while A and B are, you know, your everyday stuff. Maybe I will take a look at the manual in a second, just to see if maybe this makes more sense once you look at the control schemes. Because if you weren't aware or you forgot, the Intellivision, you know, originally was controlled with a number pad that goes from 1 to 9. And that's weird because, you know, with the triggers and these 4 buttons here, there is 6 buttons. You know, you could also count the start and the select buttons maybe, but I don't even know if a pause function existed back in those days. It was quite a rarity until like the NES came out, which is very weird to think about for someone who maybe isn't too much of an expert or wasn't around back in the day, but yeah, that's funny. Speaking of the select and start buttons, they are kind of very annoying because you might be a bit deceived from this very large bump area, you know, surrounding the face buttons, because it kind of gives off the impression that these buttons are closer to the face buttons than they actually are, when in actuality you kind of have to go like very far to just pause. Even from, not as much I suppose from you know, the D-pad, but it's still not an ideal setting. I suppose I'm gonna use the Xbox Series X controller, which is very dusty, even though I used it kinda recently. I don't know what's up with that. The start and select buttons, or I don't even know like how they renamed them in this new console, but you get what I mean. Start and select, fairly accessible and fairly close to the face buttons and the analog stick, which is ideal. And of course, you know, kinda cheating, comparing this piece of junk here to something that came out nearly 20 years later for a console that has a lot of monetary backing behind and people who may know more about what they're doing. There is one thing actually that this Play Power Intellivision does better than the Series X controller, and that is the D-pad. Look at this bit of height that there is between the actual pad and the rest of the controller. It almost feels like a joystick, you know, one from the arcade days, from fighting games and stuff like that. And it makes the diagonal movements very precise, a lot more precise than actually any controller that I've ever used, which is insane to say, but I guess so. Of course, this feels a bit cheap, you know, a bit flimsy, like everything else in this controller, but this D-pad is surprisingly really great. And this makes me wonder, is this mold something that Jig created themselves, or did they, I suppose, outsource it from some Japanese third-party controller company and just went with that? I don't think that's the case, because these 4 buttons here are kinda terrible, and so are the start and select. Maybe for the triggers it's just a matter of cheap manufacturing, but everything else seems like it was made by someone who doesn't quite understand video games. And that's what I find so fascinating about it. Alright, I had to change locale here for a short moment, because I do not have a TV in my house, like I said before. I didn't really care about buying a new one, just to make this video, so instead I am going back to where it all began, which is my bedroom. kind of. This is right outside my bedroom. The house I used to live in was rather weird, but the point is, I'm home. And this is a big TV that I used to game a lot back in the day, and it's perfectly compatible with our Intellivision trinket here. Looks like we ran into some issues here. Let me see if resetting the console. Oh, never mind. Okay, there you go. Astro Smash. Why am I playing Astro Smash right now? I didn't press or select anything. Let me see. What happens if I press reset? Okay, there we go. Play power. No. Oh, okay, never mind. I was thinking, oh, this screen is all glitched out. But I think it's some sort of intentional effect, because... okay, never mind. It is glitched out, yes. Some games will feature the proper screen, some others will not. That's... rather unfortunate, and I'm not sure what's causing it. I suppose it's just old age catching up with the technology. Either way, let's play some... I can only play with one hand, which is rather inconvenient. Also, I didn't press anything. Why are you starting off motocross here? Hello? Hello? Okay, lap 1. Am I supposed to press anything here? No, okay, I reset by mistake actually. Okay, sure, Astro Smash, the Space Invaders ripoff, let's see. I'm pressing buttons, my moves aren't coming out. What? Oh fuck, I accidentally, sorry, turned it off. Using one hand is a bit inconvenient here. I should have brought my, I suppose, setup for the phone, but it is what it is. Let's play this one. I don't remember the name, but I remember it was alright. Star Strike, okay, cool. Okay. Okay, there is no audio. I mean, that's actually normal, I think. Some games had like the voice command thing that is very popular, the B-17 bomber. The majority actually just has a plain screen with no audio, no anything. And nothing is happening. Okay. Pressing start. Okay, there you go. Cool, cool. Okay, I can move. I mean, it works. It would be kind of concerning if it is a 23 years old game. You know, it's now like 46, but back in the day it was 23. Would have emulation issues of any kind. Fuck. I'm only using one hand, okay? That's the excuse here. Okay, I think this is actually a lot more fluid than I last remembered playing. So that's nice. You know, I remember the Intellivision games being a bit laggy, a bit slow, which was the big thing that made them worse than Atari. This, I don't know if it's because it's sped up or what. It's a lot faster than I remember. I will have to compare footage with the Intellivision Lives collection, because I think this game was also there. Okay, there isn't really much to say that I can do the way I am allowed to play right now. Should have maybe thought this through a bit harder, but whatever, it is what it is. Let's try just another game and call it a day. Night Stalker, it's I mean, I like this game, but Sharks, Snafu, Space Arma. Actually, yes, let's play Night Stalker, so I can verify 100% if the fact that the games are sped up is just not my headcanon, because this is like the one that I remember the most. I don't know, like this feels actually quite smooth for what it is. Must be my headcanon. I don't think they actually did anything to improve on the games, or even just the performance in general. Maybe I'm just starting to see the vision. The Intellivision, one would say. Maybe next time that I boot up the Intellivision Lives collection, I'm actually gonna have a lot more fun than what I did previously. I actually did a video where I'm kinda mean to the console itself, so... Hey, that's sweet. I'm glad... Fuck, I'm dead. And the screen here glitching out wasn't the original, I'm pretty sure. So I guess either it's not a perfect emulation, or my console here is kinda fucked up.